I was sleeping and the Holy Spirit woke me up and told me to start a blog. At the time, I had no access to internet. I didn't have a laptop, and I'm not even sure if I had a job. When he woke me, I started writing pages of notes, and I remember I wrote 4 pages of notes.
Wow.
And I was like, how is this even going to happen? I don't have a laptop, but I have access to cyber cafes. I had a photographer friend. So I told him, I was like, can I come to your house? And then we'll batch shoot. And then I will type up the blog post and then go to a cyber cafe, pay for like 2 hours and type it. Around the time that I met my husband, I just had the idea to start a YouTube channel to be almost an extension of this thing I was doing online. I didn't start because I had this clear direction for what my YouTube channel was going to look like.
Yeah.
I just want to obey, put myself out there and impact people as much as possible. I probably made like pizza money, but I think when I moved here and I realized that the people who were the loudest weren't the ones making the most money. There were people making money in content creation very silently. They were making money in so many different ways that were quite subtle, not in your face, but they were making so much money. But I remember when I made £1, I was like, this £1 is proof of concept. It's proof that this works. If I can make £1, I can make £100. If I can make £100, I can make 1,000. And if I can make 1,000, I can make 100,000.
But I'm quite interested in knowing your from Nigeria to the UK story.
When you move to a new country, you have to decide what part of yourself you're going to shed. For me, it was hard because I was like, who is this version of Torera? Who are you going to be? Because at work, I felt like I needed to be a different person. I needed to show up as a different person. This immigrant experience is not something you can explain to someone who hasn't lived it.
Yeah.
Cheers.
So I should start by saying your home is really beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
And I think when I first walked in, I did this very giddy dance because in my head I'm like, I really love it when spaces are well put together, well designed, and like you have volume, and it just feels like the art of the space. And I'm glad we're filming this.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And I like to do this thing where I don't introduce my guests. I want it to be like a mystery unraveling, because I feel like there's a lot more to you than what we see online. You know, the YouTube talking about your renovation and you know, DIY and cleaning and all of those things. So yeah, I'm excited about this. But then I start with this kind of question, which is, what's been the most fun you've had this week?
Definitely your visit, you and your wife. Definitely your family visiting us. It's just been absolutely amazing. It's felt so effortless. You know, sometimes when you're hosting, it can take a lot out of you, but it's not felt like that at all. Like, conversation has been easy, hosting has been easy. It's just been, I've really enjoyed my time with you guys. Seriously.
I'll sip to that. Well, now, I sort of followed a little bit, not entirely, and I did a little bit of research, and I've sort of seen more into your YouTube journey.
Yeah.
And I would pretty much say it was like ground up. But then there is this gap, which you might want to address it later, but what really gets you going when it comes to putting together your ideas? Even the whole YouTube journey, like what made it happen for you?
What made it happen? So it all started with a blog. When I was young, I don't remember how old I was. I was probably very early 20s. I was sleeping and the Holy Spirit woke me up and told me to start a blog. At the time, I had no access to internet. I didn't have a laptop, and I'm not even sure if I had a job or a proper one. Yeah, I think I was about 21 actually, when the Holy Spirit told me to do this. And I was like, how is this going to happen? So I remember when he woke me, it was around, I can't remember what time it was, but I started writing pages of notes. And I remember I wrote 4 pages of notes.
Wow.
And I was like, how is this even going to happen? So I was like, I don't have a laptop, but I have access to cyber cafes. I don't have internet, but obviously there's cyber cafes. I don't have, because I was very into like quality at the time. How things looked mattered to me. So I had a photographer friend who was shooting. Yeah, I had a job. Who was shooting for my boss at the time. So I told him, I was like, can I come to your house and then we'll batch shoot 4 DIYs? No, seriously. And then I would type up the blog post and then go to a cyber cafe, pay for like 2 hours and type it. That was my journey, how it started. And then around the time that I met my husband, when we were dating, I just had the idea to start a YouTube channel to be almost an extension of this thing I was doing online. And that was how I started. It wasn't because, I didn't start because I had this clear direction for what my YouTube channel was going to look like.
Yeah.
I didn't. I just felt, I just want to obey, put myself out there and impact people as much as possible. That was it. And just share my gifts with the world, whatever that was.
My journey is a lot different because mine started from that thing that happens to most people, and it's like the fear of missing out.
Really?
Everybody was getting online, and I'm there. I had a camera. I was in my master's, and I just felt like I was wasting away. You know, I had all of these brilliant ideas, these really grand gifts, but then it's just not being used for anything. So I was like, okay, no, maybe I'll start making videos.
Wow.
I was making cooking videos.
Are you serious? You were making cooking videos?
Yeah, because I lived alone, and our film, they were horrible for like, I don't even have access to them anymore. I deleted all of them because it was just my like expressing myself in a way I probably could. And I had no knowledge of photography or videography or anything then. It was just, I bought the camera because it's cool to have one. And I was going to realize that, okay, I need to take this seriously, but not because I want to earn from it, but I want to do it.
Yeah.
And I'll devote myself to it. And over time, that's gone from just videos to different things. That today, I feel like people who carry on the tag creator, YouTuber, I feel like we miss what the point really is. It should come from a place of joy and excitement. And since I became a parent, that part of me, it almost died. Because like I'm giving myself to this family, this young person, and then those part of me that feels like it just started like reducing in a way. Yeah. And I'm sort of guessing that sort of happened to you as well, those 2 years gap.
Absolutely.
So like, what was that
happened?
like?
Okay, so during that period, we decided that we wanted to expand our family. So we were like, before we expand our family, we want to be able to be settled in a house, you know, because we're planners, we plan a lot. So we said, you know what, this is the plan. We'll buy a house, we'll renovate it a little bit, we'll settle in the house, and then we'll start trying for a baby. The time we're supposed to buy a house, things just didn't happen as quickly as we wanted them to.
Right.
So we ended up buying much later than we expected to buy, which we did, all well and good. By the time we were to start the renovation, what was supposed to take 4 months became 1 year.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
And during that period, we had to live in the countryside with my mother-in-law. It's very far away. It was such a stressful experience because before we even moved in with her, we were paying rent, paying a mortgage, and paying the builders.
So that's a lot of expenses within a short period.
Yes. And then, just around that time, I fell pregnant. So trust me, YouTube was the last thing on my mind. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to imagine how you sort of found a way out of that. Because thinking through maybe things that happened with the building, with renovation and all of that, and then living far away, how did you get back?
How did I get? I don't understand.
Like, so like after the renovation had happened, and then you've given birth, getting back to maybe being yourself again,
Yeah.
which I feel like maybe was impossible. It's like a new version just came up.
Not gonna lie, I don't think I felt like myself until last year. Yeah. I don't think I started feeling like myself until last year. The whole period of my life was quite intense. Throughout my life, ever since I was 9 years old, I've had to live with people. And one of the things I enjoyed about that present moment was the fact that I no longer had to live with anyone apart from my husband. I had to live with, and just to give context, my house was really far from the city. So I had to kind of live with people to make commuting to work or to school a lot easier. But the process of having to live with people in your formative years can have you feeling like you're somewhere but nowhere. You're part of something but not really. Because I was living with families, but I didn't feel like a part of the family. So me having my own space was very important to me. It was a huge thing for me.
Like you dreamt about it.
Exactly. It was something that was massive for me. So me now, after saying, oh, finally, I'm in my own home. Because we were living in a really tiny, small flat. Even the small flat felt like everything to me because it was my own space to share with my husband.
You had control over it.
Exactly. I was the boss of I was the queen of the castle, even though it was a 1-bedroom flat. So me having to lose that control to move and live with someone was such a difficult thing for me. Thankfully, it wasn't as bad, but it was just that transition was really difficult. Yeah. Really, really difficult.
I think it's going to be a trend with this thing I'm starting to do now, where we're really going to get quite emotional.
Yeah.
And it can be quite difficult after going through something like that and then being able to get back to all the things you now need to do to improve, to get better. And I know that YouTube, blogging, the transition, everything, how did you know when it was time to start making or earning from these things? Because I don't think you left it as just, okay, I'm just blogging for blogging's sake or making videos for video's sake.
Yeah. I think from the start, it was never really about money. It was never about money, but it was at the time when I already knew the potential. And I'm someone who's a planner. So I was like, okay, this is something I want to make me money eventually. But money wasn't like the first thing I was focused on, right? So I don't think I made a lot of money. Like I didn't make life-changing money from, it's true. I probably made like pizza money from it for the longest time. But I think when I moved here.
To the UK?
Yes, to the UK. And I made friends with, there's a friend of mine, I'll probably just keep her name out of it, but there's a friend of mine, she was so open with me about how much she was making. And she would tell me, Torera, she would show me her account. She would show me she'd be like, Torera, wake up, we have to make this money. She said, Torera, we have to make this money, get up, do you know what the brand just paid me? She was so open about it. She was so I bless God for her because she made me see what was possible. And she was so open and she was always willing to put me on. And I've met several other people like that. And I realized that the people who were the loudest weren't the ones making the most money.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah. Or the people who had ads spread all over their pages are probably not the ones making the most money. There were people making money in content creation very silently.
It's like more into the values.
Yes. Because they were selling their content to brands. They were creating content for brands and licensing their content and making money that way. You know?
Yeah.
They were making money in so many different ways that were quite subtle, not in your face.
Yeah.
But they were making so much money. And I thank God that I was able to meet such people who were willing to share that knowledge with me. And I was like, wow, so this world even exists. I had dreams of what I wanted to make as a content creator, but just having people show me the ropes, it was everything. Yeah.
I think I had to do everything myself.
Yeah.
And quite similar to your story, until I got here, before I was able to see that, okay, it's bigger than just making videos. It's
Much
bigger
bigger.
than just doing, content videos on Instagram every day, doing this thing for a brand and all of that. And there is this very quiet voice that goes unspoken with a lot of interactions like this with companies that value the things that you do. I feel like genuinely it is important for you to find organizations that value your work beyond what they see on the public platforms. And I mean, I know for one, a kind of brand like that I've sort of seen constantly do this, most people would not want to associate with them because they don't have the best of the best following, they don't have the best of, brand presence. But when they see that, okay, this is the kind of person this person is, they connect with you beyond what your content says, more into your personality, and you just think.
Yeah.
And finding things like that was just really good. For example, when I got to the UK, I didn't understand the landscape. Like, how do I even start pitching to brands?
Yeah.
And out of nowhere, Google Pixel reached out. And in my head, I'm like,
how did they even find me?
How did they even find me, right? And these are things that would happen, and to you, it will feel very random. But then, if you think about it again, over the years, you've been doing this thing really well. You've been putting in the work, and I mean, it's starting to pay off now.
Yeah, slowly.
So, what was the most interesting project you've worked on when it comes to working with brands? I mean, you might not really go into detail, but my intention with this is nobody really knows what would become big until you get into it. And it takes like process.
Yeah.
So from you just running this blog, this YouTube channel, and then getting access to these people, how did things start changing?
Sorry, I'm not sure of your question.
So like, after you got here and then you had access to these people.
Yeah. Which people? The friends?
Yeah, the friends.
Yeah.
Was it like it was just easy to just start getting these brands to work with?
No.
No,
absolutely not. Not just even brands, but also my husband. Because obviously he comes from a more corporate background and a more conservative background. So for him, he didn't understand this content thing. He didn't understand this online thing. It took a lot of convincing. So it was like trying to convince both him and myself that this was something that could even make money, right? Because I would work throughout the week and then spend my weekends, and he would help me with shooting and stuff like that. So he was like, what's the point of this? This is just an expensive hobby, And it took a lot to get him on board, right? But I remember when I made £1, and I told him, I said, this £1 is the start of something good. I was like, this £1 is proof of concept.
Yeah.
It's proof that this works. If I can make £1, I can make £100. If I can make £100, I can make 1,000. And if I can make 1,000, I can make 100,000. I'm telling you. And that's why I told him when he was like, oh yeah, here she goes again.
She's preaching.
And eventually, both of us ended up working on a campaign for Taylor & Hart.
I remember that.
He proposed with obviously this engagement ring, which was from Taylor & Hart. Taylor & Hart had followed my journey through the years, and they were running this campaign, and they said, you know what? We'd like to get you guys. First of all, we did a video with Taylor & Hart, and they paid both of us for that campaign, right? And I think that was...
It sort of opened, it was like, okay, you can make money.
Funny enough, I had gotten other deals before then.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was the kind of money he respected. But when Taylor and Hart, and this was how many years ago? Like almost 4 years ago. Taylor and Hart now said both of us should be a part of the campaign. He was like, what? Like, and when, he saw how much they were paying, he was like, oh my gosh, was this even possible? And then we ended up on billboards actually in central London.
Oh.
And and he was like, what is this? Like, I think for him, it was like, oh my gosh.
This is different.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you can imagine going from, that midnight encounter, the Holy Spirit said, do this, and then now.
Yeah.
But I'm quite interested in knowing your from Nigeria to the UK story, though. Because it's like everybody keeps saying terrible things about the transition you get here. You're trying to adjust the system and all of that, which, I mean, it happens, but then for everybody it's different, My first 6 months in the UK, I could not do anything. Like making videos, doing creative, it was just like a tank. I was really boxed in.
Yeah.
And breaking out took me rethinking this whole idea of what it means to be working for myself, doing all these creative things, making videos. And then I think the turning point for me was when I realized that, look, let me just tell my story. It's not really about saying, okay, the UK is difficult or anything. The people that I'm trying to reach, what really appeals to them? Is it the lamenting we will do normally or something different from what everybody's doing? And I started telling stories, okay, being a stay-at-home, like being a house husband.
Yeah. And obviously that's going to get people's attention.
Yeah. And then I had a son and then became stay-at-home dad. And genuinely, that is like my life. But now it's connected with a lot more people.
Yeah.
And it just shows that, okay, this is the same kind of person I was in Nigeria, but I was focused on making money then in Nigeria because I'm like, Nigeria is hard. I have to do all of this.
Make the money.
Yeah. But then now it's like, I genuinely just want to live a really peaceful life and share the part I can share with the public. Maybe to help somebody. Who knows?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what was your own journey like, from Nigeria to the UK, settling in and all of that?
Oh my gosh. I remember when my husband and I were still dating and I was so naive. I told him, I said, why don't you move to Nigeria? We can live a good life here. He was like, if that's your plan, let's know whether we want to end this relationship. Because he was just like, why would you even consider me moving to Nigeria? And then eventually when I moved here, it was tough. I'm not going to lie. I had a good landing pad because he was here and obviously he had a good job and was able to care for me and all of that. I didn't have to struggle or whatever. But merging, like living apart, like when you move to a new country, you have to decide what part of yourself you're going to shed.
Yeah.
Because you're really going to have to shed some part of yourself.
Necessary.
Absolutely. But it's about deciding what part of yourself you're going to shed. So for me, it was hard because I was like, who is this version of Torera? Who are you going to be? Because at work, I felt like I needed to be a different person. I needed to show up as a different person. It's not something you can really, this immigrant experience is not something you can explain to someone who hasn't lived it.
Yeah.
But I remember there was a day I sat down and I was about to go to work and I was just having a conversation with my husband. I think he had the day off or something like that. I sat down with him and I was just having a conversation with him. I was about to stand up to go to work. And just as I started talking to him, would you believe that? I started hyperventilating. And I was like, and then I couldn't breathe. And he was like, calm down, you're having a panic attack. In my life, I've never heard of a panic attack. I'd never heard of it in my life. I was like, what? Like, wow. I couldn't breathe. I genuinely couldn't. I was just talking and I couldn't breathe. I found that I couldn't breathe. because I was talking about work, my experience, having to go to like the budding. I was like, I don't know. And tears just started flowing from me and I just couldn't breathe. And I had to take in deep breaths to get myself back. And he was like, you are experiencing a lot of anxiety and it's normal, but it's going to get better. So that was when I knew that I needed therapy to kind of not just talk to him, but talk to a professional to talk through what I was experiencing up here. Right? It was hard. I'm not going to lie. But after year 3, I started getting
it's like, yeah,
I think I'm
not one of them.
Exactly.
It wasn't fun for me, honestly. But I think in my mind and with my learning experiences in School of Architecture, I sort of learned a lot about like the UK, Scotland, and all of that. So yeah, it felt like, okay, I'm sort of familiar with this place, but nothing prepared me for the initial shock of not knowing what to do with your life. You know, and then I was coming in fresh out of like, I just got married, like probably 3 months in. And then my wife and I had spent 3 months apart because I was waiting for my visa. She had to come back. It was very weird. And then I got here and I couldn't bring all of my work tools, my video, like cameras, lights, and all of those things. I couldn't bring them. So it was just like, this is the only thing I know how to do in my life. And now I'm just stuck in a place where I don't know anything. I'll go out and just take a walk and look around. What do people really do here? And the lifestyle felt very strange because everybody's going out every single day to work.
Yeah.
I've never done that before in my life. So I'm not thinking to myself, oh my goodness.
Wow, so you're one of those people.
Yeah, like from School of Architecture, just to myself that I'm not going to be employed. I'm going to try and run my own thing. You know, founded a few ventures. Some of them did well, some of them didn't do well. I remember one, it was a furniture business that
Wow.
I used my MSc fees.
Your MSc fees?
Yeah. And it was a good business. It was a good idea, right? I'd done the furniture designs, you know, and then I had a carpenter to help me out with it.
Yeah.
The guy produced everything, was really good. But then I had exams. So I was like, okay, I'll take a break. After the exams, I'll do the showcase. So like it was going to be set up in multiple different rooms in like a showroom. And then I'll bring people into Lost View and then some of them can buy on spot and stuff like that.
Don't tell me he ran away with your money.
No. He produced everything. And then after my exams, I was just walking home. It was like 2 weeks of exams.
Yeah.
And I sort of spotted something that looked very similar to what I designed. I just discarded it. I went to his store and he had reproduced. It was like shivers came all over me. I was like, oh my God, I wanted to collapse. So it was like hard work of close to 7 months just went blank. Because now there is.
You produce it for 7 people.
Now there's no point doing the showcase anymore. So I just packed up everything and used it for my apartment. And that's when I started to realize that, look,
My God.
you can't really place your whatever it is you're doing in the hands of people.
Anybody, yeah.
You know, and I mean, we were talking about this before now, and it was your. I mean, I even saw the video of your renovation experience.
Horrible.
When did you know that? Oh my God, this is getting bad.
I think it was when our project manager had a call with the builder and happened to record the conversation, and he was swearing and just going off the handle, flying off the handle. We were like, oh my gosh, I think we're really in trouble because this guy is not who he presented himself to be. And that was when we started uncovering a lot of the things, the damage that he had done to the property.
Please say more.
Oh my gosh. Where do I even start? Like pipes that were connected in a way that if you flush your toilet, your doo-doo will go straight to your garden. Walls that were not straight. Building control was supposed to be notified at every level when you do stuff, didn't notify building control. Basically, the way he built the house was in a way that when you come and inspect, you will see that things are getting done, but they're not done.
Right.
It's a different kind of scamming. Where
on the surface it's
because you don't get paid, he doesn't get paid until he does a certain part of the build. Because obviously we have a list of works, right? That you're supposed to do. So it's like you're ticking point A, point B, point C, and it's like, yeah, I've done this. So if he has done that, you pay, right? That was what happened. So he would do it, it will get inspected, but he was supposed to have almost like a line of communication with building control, because building control was supposed to be coming to inspect the property and for every stage basically, but he was not doing that part because he didn't care about the house being safe. And the thing is, you can't even sign off on your house until building control, like basically building control has to sign off on your house, right? But he wasn't doing any of that communication because he didn't care. What he wanted was do the bare minimum and charge them the most. Do you understand?
Yeah.
That's what he was doing.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It sort of feels like in Nigerian practice.
Yeah.
Because I've supervised quite a number of projects, and even before the project gets approved, you use gold-plated doors instead of actual go-down doors. And things like that will just be so many, probably use like, so amount of concrete mix.
Yeah.
You reduce that.
Reduce it. Yes, that's what he was doing, pretty much.
So how did you flag it? How did you know? And
it was the project manager that eventually noticed
that
something, but he himself didn't know. I don't think he knew enough to know what to call out.
Okay.
But at that point, I think he knew that there was something fishy going on. So he was like, okay, we need to put a stop to this and get other people to check this. So when other people came in to check it, they started mentioning some of the issues. And we were like, oh my gosh, this is much more than we anticipated. Yeah. And at this point, I was like 8 months pregnant. Yeah. I was quite heavy.
You've gone deep into the project.
Yes.
You're also pregnant.
Yeah. And we considered selling the house.
At that point?
At that stage. Oh. Because it was bleeding money. It was bleeding money. And we're like, this is way past like our, and I'll share this on this platform, but this was way past our, what we had budgeted for. But I had savings, which was a mixture of my savings from my job and savings from content creation.
Oh, so you were working while still,
Oh yeah. I was working. My husband was working as well. We were saving, even as we continued to save. But at this point, we obviously needed a huge cash injection to find a new builder to finish the property. So I remember my plan was, once I have the baby and we finish this house, I would buy, because I really wanted to try my hands on interior design. That was my plan. Yeah. So I'm a planner. So I was like, okay, I'll save a lot of the money from my content creation and save the money I wasn't spending money. I was just saving. And I had a lot of money saved, right? So my plan was to buy another small property, to really do up and let it be like a short-let kind of apartment where I would really try my hands on interior design and showcase that and show my hosting skills and maybe like an Airbnb, something like that. It was supposed to be like a business, money towards business. I basically had to drop all that money. Yeah. I had to put everything.
Now I know why there was a 2-year break.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
Absolutely.
Man, that's a lot. And after everything, so much peace, you would experience so much peace because now you're both quite almost on the same page.
Yeah, definitely on the same page.
Yeah. Wow. Like hearing it now, it's just in my head. I'm like, why can't we just take the high road and just admit that something is wrong without trying to fix everything yourself? Because when you're making those statements on the altar, for better, for worse, they're like, we get selfish when it comes to fixing problems because it's like,
You feel it's your responsibility.
yeah, not knowing that. I mean, you have to do it together.
Yeah.
Like you have to do it together.
You have to
can't-
surrender.
Yeah. You can't spend so much time trying to fix something that the other person has the solution very near to them, but they don't know where you're at. They can't really like see where you're at. They can't really experience or like have a feeling of what's going on in your head. Sometimes, okay, will ask me, Dean, what's happening in your head? And it always felt like a strange question until I started taking active measures to understand why she's asking. She wants to genuinely know what's going on with you. Yeah. And then I started responding with not just what I'm thinking about, but then how I'm feeling. And then she understood me a lot more.
That's so
it's like,
good.
Okay, Dimeji, you're not fine. Don't work today. She just said that. And I'm like, okay, I've heard you. And I'll just take a break. And I realized how much that was helping me. And I was like, I need to start listening to my wife more, honestly. Because like they can read you so much that if you're not yourself, you know. But then you can't force me to do it. So if you ask me and I'm telling you, yeah, I'm fine, you just, okay, no problem.
I think it's a man thing, to be honest, if you ask me. I think it's a man thing. You always feel like you have to carry the load on your own. You can't share your feelings. Like my husband does not cry, for instance. Tears, like no matter what. Even when he sees people crying, he'll start laughing. Can you imagine? I'm just like, what's funny about someone crying? Like he'll just start laughing. He doesn't cry. He doesn't express like, he doesn't, I don't know. Maybe he just feels it's not a manly thing to express his emotions in that way. You know, this toxic masculinity. What do they call it?
So I don't think it's toxic. It's probably like a default upbringing thing.
Maybe.
I don't think I never saw my dad cry. Yeah. So how would I cry? But then the day I knew that, look, this thing can help me bond better with my wife.
Yeah.
It wasn't even funny that day because in my head, it was like, I'm holding these things together.
Yeah.
But I'm obviously not okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, look, this is what's happening to me. This is where my head is at. I've been here for 6 months. Nothing is changing. Why? Like, I feel like I shouldn't be here. What sort of different things? And she was just looking at me. I didn't know what was going on in her head. So I was like, look, I'll be honest with you. Every single day, I feel like I shouldn't be here. And then she just held me. And then I just started crying. That was the day Moke understood what my emotional side feels like.
Yeah.
And then ever since, she became very daring when it comes, like she would just be like, look, I'm seeing the way you're feeling, like you're acting these days, and I know something is up.
That's so nice.
Just let me know. I can help you. And even if I can help you, I'll be here. I'll just sit down with you and we'll just, look through it together.
You guys are so cute, honestly.
But this is something I never saw growing up. So how do you expect me to just try to do it? And I'm looking forward to seeing more men acknowledge that it is okay to be able to express that part of yourself.
Yeah.
Because I feel like subconsciously it makes the other person know that, okay, you're not a robot. Yeah. You're not a machine. Like, you have feelings. You have things going on in your head.
I think there have been moments where Rotimi has like, obviously he shares his feelings sometimes. He does. But I don't think it's his personality. Like, yeah. He's so used to taking on a lot. Yeah. He's just like, yeah. It's not his personality. He doesn't really share, even with friends.
Oh, that's a normal one.
Yeah. Even with friends, he doesn't, yeah.
If there's something that you constantly have to think through and you feel like, oh my goodness, this part of me needs to change, needs to adjust, needs to be better, do you ever get to a point where in your head, you know what this thing needs to be, but then physically it's not looking like it?
Absolutely.
And explaining it to someone wouldn't just cut it. So having to now walk through that space, knowing that I know what needs to be done, I know what it needs to look like. Getting it done is almost impossible. And then it's heavily dependent on you doing the work. Does it ever get easy? You know, you're asking yourself those kind of questions like every single time. And it could be YouTube, it could be, motherhood, it could be anything. What are the ways that you found, best to just walk through this path of knowing what needs to be done, having those ideas, those grand thoughts in your head, but then in the physical, it's not just looking like it?
Okay. So there's this book that I really love that basically teaches how to take an idea, bring it to reality within 12 weeks. And it's called the 12-week year. And with the 12-week year, 1 week is 1 month. 1 month is, 1 week is 1 month, pretty much. I'm trying to remember, but yeah. The whole concept is based on planning your goals and your vision in a 12-week year. So 1 day is 1 week, 1 week is 1 month.
Yeah.
That's the way you treat it. So what's the goal? You set up like 3 goals, at most 3 goals, can be 2, can be 1.
But at most 3, yeah.
Write all the steps that it takes to achieve that goal, everything you need to do to make that goal possible.
Yeah.
Refine that list to make it shorter to just the important things that need to be done to make that goal possible. And every single thing on that list needs to be put on your calendar in a 12-week year, within 12 weeks.
Yeah.
Every week, you have an accountability meeting with someone else and you give yourself a score. Not just a score from your head, but a score based on how many of those tasks that you achieved. So I'll give you an example. I set a goal for myself that I wanted to learn how to drive, right? Learning how to drive meant passing my theory test and it meant booking my practical test, right? So for the theory test, I put on my list of goals, read for 1 hour every day. Read your theory practice for 1 hour every day.
Yeah.
So I would wake up every day at 5:30 or 5 o'clock and make sure that after praying, I would read for 1 hour. And I did that for a month, for 4 weeks. Went on and I passed the test. But if I didn't set the goal, and I was just like, I'll do it later, it's just never going to happen.
Yeah.
So taking our ideas to reality requires some kind of structure. It's going to be painful because obviously having my accountability meetings, I need to tell them my score for the week. And based on this 12-week year concept, you should score about 85% every week. So this is based on your tasks. Did you tick them off?
Yeah.
If you score about 85%, you're more than likely going to achieve that goal.
Oh, that's quite interesting.
Yeah.
Because I used to be I'll just scribble on the wall and just do anything whichever way it comes, until I found a very similar to this. And I mean, most concepts are quite related.
Yeah.
But then the way it's delivered makes the most difference. Yeah. For me, it would be, there's this big goal, and then like you work from top to bottom.
Yeah.
So I have this 1 year goal, and I'm like, in 1 year, I want to have done this. For example, this was 2019 when I first started this whole journey, and was in 2019 I wanted to read 24 books.
Wow.
How would that happen? Like, I just wanted to read more books. I've never finished a book before in my life, like cover to cover, except the Bible. Wow. But then, okay.
You finished the Bible cover to cover?
Yeah, twice. That period, it was during my master's. So like, there was a lot of time. And I'm like, I need to use this year wisely. And I just did that. But then with the books, I was just, okay, you know what? Let me invest in myself for this period. I started learning about cover theory, started learning about, digital, like audio storytelling, so many different things. That really helped me when it came to content creation and all of the other things I'm doing, productivity. But then there's no way I can read 24 books. So let me start with breaking it down. So you want to read more this year. How many books do you want to read? I was like 24. Okay, 24. That would mean 2 every month. Is that possible? No. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try, even if it's once a day, read 20 minutes or at least finish 4 pages. And then that became the everyday thing. Every day in the morning, I do 30 minutes. At night before I go to bed, I do 15 minutes. And then altogether 45 minutes. So 45 minutes every day, I was picking the same book to read. And the first month, it was hard. I finished the book in 28 days. The second month, I did 20 days. By March of 2019, I finished the book in 15 days. I'm going for 24. I was like, let me just stick to 12, one every month. By October, I was finishing 2 books in a month. 7 days, 1 book is done. The next 7 days, the other book is done. And altogether, I was able to finish 17 books. The goal was 24, but I was able to do 17. And that taught me this level of discipline that the little things every day, they make a lot of things happen for yourself. You know, I think I was sharing with you about the 90 days of, video editing. So it just takes one tiny task every day to put it together.
Absolutely. I believe that so much.
Yeah. And I mean, just spending this time with you this few days, I sort of see into your process, and you're quite detailed. I'm telling you. And that's one thing people don't have.
Really? You noticed that?
Yeah. Like, I mean, I was in your office and I saw the sticky notes on the wall, everything like that. Making these things visual is so important.
Very.
And I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. People who are trying to take YouTube seriously, they feel it's just record video and maybe I'll let you do like a quick YouTube masterclass.
No, please, I'm not an expert in that at all.
Well, for you, like, what are the things you wish to improve on when it comes to the way you put out your content, the way you present your brand out there? Because I feel like after spending so long, staying away from this thing, you must have seen a lot of things to improve on and do differently.
I think being a beginner all over again. You have to have the mindset of a beginner. I've seen a lot of OG YouTubers or OG content creators. Some of the ones who are not doing as well have failed to reinvent themselves. Because reinventing yourself is hard. It's easier to stick to the path you know and stick to the style you know. You were talking to me earlier about storytelling and giving me a different approach to storytelling. And these are things I never really considered, especially because I had such a huge gap from YouTube. Things had changed completely. And I was like, oh my gosh, I probably don't fit in here anymore, right? But it's about how willing are you when you already know something, when people consider you knowledgeable in something, take the position of someone who's starting again. You have to always have that mindset of starting again. Willingness to start again. It's like a cycle. You learn, you evolve, you go back, you start again. Because if not, you're going to be stagnant. What's that Bible verse that talks about keeping abreast of the times?
Yeah.
It's important. It's so important. And I think that's where a lot of us make the mistake, because you think you have arrived. If you continue to think you have arrived, you will never arrive.
True.
That's just what I think. You will never arrive. You have to be a beginner. You have to be willing to be a beginner and to learn new things all over again. And that's where I am right now. And I'm not afraid or ashamed to learn from even a Gen Z who is willing to, do you understand?
Yeah.
To approach things differently. That's how people stay relevant. And you have to stay relevant to even make the kind of impact that God has called you to make. That's the truth.
Yeah. It's like you go with this, I know how to do this thing, this is what I'm called to do. And then gradually you're starting to see how, like, it's almost becoming old glory.
Yes.
And then you bask in it so much
that you don't realize the world has left you behind.
I think one thing I don't like in my life is stagnancy.
Yeah.
you know, yeah, you feel like, yes, I'm still doing the right things. Let me just do the bare minimum. I think that's the worst place I've ever been in. And I was at that place, and every time I'm sort of getting to that place, I'm sort of getting to a plateau, I just ghost. Like I leave social media and spend like months just thinking again.
Yeah.
And the day I found out that prayer is very important when it comes to opening your mind again.
Absolutely.
That was the turning point for me.
Absolutely.
You know, I realized that, look, every single day I'm just opening my heart up to God, like, God, see, this thing might seem like it's just making videos. But God, you know how much I put my heart into this thing.
Yeah.
Please help me, open my mind. I don't want to get stuck, you know, I don't want to get stuck in the old same story. Like, okay, yes, do it this way, do it that way. Every day, give me fresh ideas. And I mean, for the longest time, I had this thing, I still have it on my bio, Christian creative. Not because it's a fancy tag to put, but that is reality. First, it is that part of me that is hidden, that nobody sees, that channels this one everybody is seeing. And everyone keeps saying, okay, Dimeji, your content is helping me today. Thank you so much. It's like, okay, now I need to now go back for me. How will this not become old glory? And then an idea will just pop. Try this, learn this, read this. I don't take those things for granted because they are very, very important. Like they come at the most important times. And I think one I can remember very well was, I think I shared it in the last episode, how my wife and I met.
Yeah.
I was like, talk about this thing. And I was very reluctant, but eventually did.
That story is just...
And then it just became something else, you know? So if we look at the way people are living when it comes to the things that they know how to do, head knowledge is not enough.
It's not.
It's not enough.
It's not.
Because I can imagine the Holy Spirit prompting you to start a blog.
Yeah.
And then right now, that's what's literally helping you not feel like you are less of yourself. It's giving you a platform. It has helped you with, and then it's bringing you into a space where you know, okay, there is more for me in this space than I've probably experienced before. So I just get excited whenever I know that, okay, there are people who know that it takes not just you, but God to also help you in the things you have to do.
Absolutely. You have to walk with the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
100%. You can't... There was a time in my creation journey when I just started and I wanted it so much. Like I just wanted it. I wanted success. I wanted to grow so quickly. I was like, you know? And I remember that day I was filming and my camera fell, I think.
Did it break?
Something like that. Something happened. And then that was it for me. I just packed it up and I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I almost deleted because I was so frustrated. I almost deleted my Instagram. I was just frustrated. And I remember that period I said I was going to, just fast and pray. That was my plan, just fast and pray. And ask God if he even wants me to do this stuff. So I remember I fasted. I did a 3-day fast. Day 1, the Holy Spirit didn't speak to me. Day 2, I didn't hear his voice. Day 3, and I remember my prayer was, Lord, if you're not in this, I don't want to be in. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. If this is not what you want me to do, I don't want to do it. Because I just don't like the stress, the whatever, And I was in the bathroom day 3 of my fast. I think I was brushing my teeth. And I heard very clearly, I don't want you to do it if I'm not in it.
That's heavy.
I was like, is that God? Like, is that, But I was like, what kind of rhetoric question is that? Because I asked him, I said, I don't want to do it if you're not in it. And he told me, I don't want you to do it if I'm not in it.
So it's like, just wait.
No. Oh. What he was saying was, I want you to do it, but I want you to walk alongside me. So I was like, the way he speaks sometimes is it's like a riddle.
Yeah.
Because I was praying, I was like, I don't want to do it if you're not in it. And he was like, I don't want you to do it if I'm not in it. I was like, wow. So that was when I knew that in this content creation journey, I don't chase money. It's not because I don't want money. I like money. No, I like it. But money will never, ever, that's a promise I've made to myself and a promise I've made to God. It will never be at the forefront of what I do. Because God knows how to take care of me.
Yeah.
There's a reason why he's given me a platform, and that's to change people's lives, to help people in some way, shape or form. He knows how to take care of me. He knows where the money is.
Yeah.
He knows how to bring it to me. The cattle on 1,000 hills, they're his.
Yeah.
He's such a rich God. He knows how to bring me wealth. So I need not worry about that. All I need to worry about is focus on what he has called me to do. And that's what I focus on. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to strategize on how to make money. No, but I'm not going to chase money. No.
You know, there are certain times in my life that I'll use this table as an example. I'm almost at the edge and I'm like, God, if I take one more step, I'm going to fall and crash. God, please catch me.
Yeah.
I still jump because it's like a very stupid idea or a very silly thought. I'm like, God, I know you're in this with me, so I'm going all out. And then I do it, and then the results come, and then it's not like, why was I scared of the jump initially? So I became very used to the old jump. God will catch you, jump. I could be going broke, and then out of nowhere, a deal will just come and settle my bills for the next 4 months.
Yeah.
But then it always became like a weird habit where I'll just be so relaxed and so calm. I won't really put too much effort into it. Yeah. And I'm like, I know God is going to catch me. Yeah. The day God dealt with me, it's like, in this thing, you don't relax, you don't slack.
No, you don't.
The standard has to be on par every single time. Because that's the way we can work together. I'm not a God of mediocrity.
Absolutely.
And when I'm like, okay, I'll be serious.
That's so true.
So I don't take
we have to play our part.
Yeah. Like, I know this for a fact. God does the 99. But that one that you have to do, if you don't do it well, you're in trouble. So learning these things over and over again, it's like, And that's when I started to realize that this thing I'm doing is not for myself. No. There's something bigger.
Absolutely.
There's something bigger. And I really connect with one thing you said.
What's that?
That he owns everything. He knows how to provide for you. But then, if you don't put yourself in a place where the things he's providing can be the exact things you see them as what God brings, not necessarily, God brought it, but it's not what I really want. See them for what it is. God brought it, which means that's the exact thing you need for that time. And every single day, I try to tell people that try to learn from me that, look, please don't do this thing for money. Well, I mean, I can't dictate for you. So, and the whole journey just starts to make you see that, look, beyond anything you want to put your effort, like your energy to your effort, first is this thing in line with what God wants?
Yeah.
And even if you feel like it's just something you're passionate about, still involve God. It might not be God's plan for you, but as long as it's involved, it starts to work together. Like I never.
He will redirect you.
Thank you. I think that was what I was trying to say all this while, and it just makes it easier. So a part of that I said I was going to really touch on to make sure that this is selfish.
Yeah.
It's for me.
Yeah.
I know how difficult it can be to make a plan and not see it work out fine. And then it takes a while, but then you eventually still go back to that same thing and it works. But then, how do you avoid not making it a pattern when you feel like, okay, I've done it like this before and it works, so I'll do it like that again?
I'm not sure I understand.
You know, so like you're doing YouTube or you're trying to just work out things and it's something that requires you to do it over and over again. But then you did it once and it worked. How do you not get to a place where you fall into this same pattern of, okay, I must do it like that every time? We touched on it a little bit of not becoming stuck in the old ways or everything. Like, how do you reinvent yourself as things change, but most importantly, the way you really want to do it? Not looking into what everybody's doing to like craft your own work.
I think first of all, you have to really like what you do. Yeah. I'm not really sure how to answer that, but I think you have to really like what you do. And you have to desire excellence in your life. Because when you desire excellence and you truly want to excel at everything that you do, I think you want it to be better. You don't want to stay stagnant. Growth is inevitable. So I think you want to grow. So anyone who wants to grow and cares about their work will not want to stay stuck on the same level for a long time. I don't think so. I think you have to really care. You have to really care. Yeah, I think when you do care, you care about growth and you focus on it. And I always say something like, it's not my saying, it's Marie Folio. She always says, she even wrote a book on it, everything is figure-outable.
Yeah.
I love that statement so much. I love that book. Everything is figure-outable. Everything. You can figure out anything. And we live in a world where the information is everywhere. So if you're staying stuck, it's on you. That's what I would say.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a well-rounded conversation.
Yes.
And this entire podcast thing, I mean, I've done it before. Right now, it feels fresh and it still feels new. It's like I'm doing this new thing. I'm stepping into weird spaces, weird waters. And I'm just really grateful that you agreed to do this. I know like schedules probably won't align and all of that, but you still took out time to do this, and I'm very grateful. But then just one last thing, and this is not for me, it is for anyone who's listening. Whenever you get to a point where you're trying to figure out what to do next with your life, with your work, with your career, whatever it is, what would you say is the most important thing to focus on? Because the entire theme of all of this is figuring life out.
Yeah.
And probably want you to do two things. First, speak to the mothers who feel like they're stuck in their identity of being a mother. You know, and then you can now go to people who just want to figure out, okay, what's the next thing for me to do in my life, in my career, and all of that.
I think, first of all, my message to mothers, anyone who has found themselves in that very overwhelming stage of motherhood, just know that it's not going to be forever. The overwhelm that you feel, it's going to get so much better. So much better. Like, don't assume that your present emotions will be your future reality. Because it really does get easier. I remember moms used to tell me that it does get easier. I think to everyone else, what I would say is never, ever stop. Clarity comes in motion, when you're in motion. Nothing grows in stagnant water. Only mosquitoes. Only mosquitoes grow in stagnant water. You have to give yourself the opportunity to flow. Just flow. Keep doing. Pick the next project in front of you and pour yourself into it. If the Holy Spirit is directing you at the time to be silent and still, spend that period praying, fasting, listening for direction. But don't ever get to a point where you're waiting for inspiration or waiting for the next. No. You have to. It has to find you doing something. You have to keep working. You have to keep working at it. And eventually, hindsight is 2020. When you look back, you're like, oh my gosh, I see how the dots
have connected. Wow. Again, thank you so much for doing this. And I love your home. Thank you so much for the tea and for this. I feel like for me, it's a life-changing conversation because I'm going to look back at this like an insight 10 years from now and be like, yeah, this was one of those conversations.
Honestly, Dimeji, I'm so honored that you would even consider me for this podcast. Honestly, I'm so honored that you would even consider me. So thank you for inviting me. Seriously, to be on this podcast, I'm extremely honored. Like, I'm a fan, so I'm a huge fan.
I'm a bigger fan. Because when I met my wife, she would always tell me about Torera. I'm like, who is this person? And I started, looking from afar, and I was like, now I see why.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you so much. Honestly, I'm so grateful. Thank you. Cheers.
Even though the tea has finished.
I've not finished mine yet.